What the f? Alright, Pinocchio, released in 1940. You know, this movie has always intrigued me. When we were younger, growing up, my sister and I watched a lot of Disney movies, newer and older. You know, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Snow White, most of the better known ones. But looking back, there was always one movie, and one of Disney's most popular movies at that we never seemed to watch. And I've always wondered why, because I've never actually seen this movie up until a few years back. And based on what I remember, this movie was actually a lot deeper and more intense than I had ever expected. Like, I remember being actually frightened and shocked by some certain scenes of this movie. But before we get into that, we'll do a quick plot synopsis. This movie opens up on an old man named Geppetto, who is a woodworker, a craftsman. He creates all sorts of dolls, clocks, basically anything that could be made out of wood. And you get to know that he's always wanted a real boy, like a real son. So he builds for himself a puppet named Pinocchio, who he builds just for the heck of it, just to kind of keep him company, obviously not expecting anything to happen. But then later that night, he wishes upon a wishing star, which, yes, this is the movie where that song came from. He wishes for Pinocchio to become a real boy. And so the blue fairy comes in, grants Geppetto his wish, and Pinocchio comes to life. Much to Geppetto's surprise, obviously. I mean, like, again, if I woke up one morning and saw that my Super Mario plushie or something like that was kind of walking and jumping around and talking to me, like making breakfast, I would be a little taken aback as well. But for the most part, this movie starts as you would expect it. You know, it's very cheerful, everyone's happy, Pinocchio and Geppetto are dancing around, you know, you think you're in for your typical Disney magic, your typical Disney fun animated movie. And you know, this is the point in the movie where you kind of you're sitting in your nice comfy chair, sipping some hot cocoa, you know, kind of letting your guard down. Don't do that. Do not let your guard down watching this movie, okay? Because that's exactly what I did, and I was in for something that I can never expect. So the story continues, and the next morning, Geppetto sends Pinocchio to school. Pinocchio runs into this guy named Honest John, and listen, he's got Honest in his name, so he must be a stand-up guy, obviously. So, and wouldn't you be shocked to know that this guy named Honest John isn't the most honest person, or fox, I guess I could say. And so Honest John convinces Pinocchio that instead of, going to school, doing that typical little kid stuff, he should become an actor, because he's obviously the first puppet that he's ever run into that was able to move on its own, he's never seen that before, or I've never seen anything like that before. And so poor innocent Pinocchio falls for this trap, and so he follows Honest John and his partner, I don't even know his name, I mean, he's literally just like a little walking slapstick machine, but he follows him to Stromboli's traveling show, and he performs in it. He makes Stromboli a lot of money, and so Stromboli locks him away in a cage and intends to travel the world with him. When the blue fairy gave Pinocchio life, she said that he will only become a real boy if he were to live a moral and honest life. So the important part of all this was that Pinocchio made these decisions himself. He made the choice to not go to school himself. He made the choice to follow Honest John himself. He made the choice to continue on to being an actor himself. Again, he was very innocent, and he's still learning, about life and about how things work and what he should and shouldn't do, but he was told to follow Jiminy Cricket as his conscience, who was supposed to guide him and show him the way on how to navigate his everyday life. Which, again, an interesting detail is Jiminy Cricket, he's a pretty good guy. He's a pretty upstanding guy. He's supposed to be Pinocchio's conscience, but there's many times in the movie where he seems to be tempted by things as well. So it just goes to show that all of us, no matter how good and how moral and how just we try to be, we're all plagued by everyday temptation and tempted to do the wrong thing to some extent, which I think this movie does a great job expressing here. But anyways, when Pinocchio is locked in the cage and the blue fairy comes to ask him what happened, Pinocchio lies up a storm to the point where his nose is going across almost the entire room. Because Pinocchio didn't know up to this point, part of the deal was that every time that he told a lie, his nose would grow a little bit longer. And so the blue fairy gives him one final chance to prove himself. He shrinks his nose back to normal size and sets him free. So if you haven't watched Pinocchio yet, just a little spoiler warning for the rest of the video. The stuff that happens after this, I mean, you would want to see for yourself. So, I couldn't really believe it when I saw it for the first time. And this is where the movie escalates even more. He runs to Honest John again, who takes him and throws him along with all these other little boys onto the coachman's boat to be shipped off to Pleasure Island. Family film, by the way. Yes, you heard that correctly. In this movie, there are a bunch of little boys gathered up and shipped off to a place called Pleasure Island in Pinocchio. But, you know, good thing this is a work of fiction. Like, nothing like this would ever happen in real life, thank gosh. Anyways, on this island, the boys are free to do whatever the heck they want. They can smoke cigarettes, they can break things, they can eat until they're sick, they can drink... I mean, it doesn't specify alcohol, so I'm just gonna assume that it's fruit beer, but I mean, this movie's been crazy enough that at this point anything is possible. Then Jiminy Cricket catches up with Pinocchio, and Pinocchio tells him that he found a new best friend and that he won't even be needing Jiminy anymore, which was a really mean thing for Pinocchio to say. But this is when we find out, as if this movie didn't get crazy enough, all of the boys on this island, after they've had their fill of temptations and pleasures, turn into donkeys, or more specifically, jackasses. And yes, they say that word multiple times throughout the film. And again, I know that in this context, it's not really a curse word, but I mean, this entire time, the movie's been walking the line between what's appropriate and what's inappropriate to put in this family film. And if they didn't cross that line so far, they certainly do in the next scene when they show every grueling step of Pinocchio's new best friend turning into one of the donkeys, which is horrifying, you know? And now I'm thinking back, oh, why didn't I watch Pinocchio as a kid? Because I would have been traumatized. So thank you, Mom. I love you. I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you for not having me sit down and watch this and scar my young, vulnerable mind. So, after this, Jiminy Cricket comes back, he and Pinocchio get the heck out of Dodge. They finally make it back to Geppetto's house, and they look inside, and he's gone. And a letter is delivered to them, and they find out that he's been swallowed by a whale. Like, this just comes out of nowhere. Again, this whole movie kind of came out of nowhere, but this, like... What? And so they go and they jump into the ocean to try and search for the whale that swallowed not only Geppetto, but his pets and the entire ship he was sailing in. And to be honest with you, at this point in the movie, it is kind of losing me a little bit because after what I just saw, you cannot make the movie any more intense than that. But now we just kind of got to watch Pinocchio and Jiminy kind of swimming around, playing with the fishes, like as if nothing happened. Like, I'm still traumatized. But whatever. They go and they eventually find Monstro. Yes, the whale's name is Monstro. And wind up in his stomach with Geppetto and the rest of the gang. To make a long story short, they find their way out by making Monstro sneeze. They get washed up to shore. They return to Geppetto's house. Pinocchio finally becomes a real boy because of his act of bravery and honesty. And the movie is wrapped up pretty nicely in a bow. You know, you hear the song again, when you wish upon... And then it's over. The screen fades to black, and you're just kind of left sitting there, questioning what the heck you just watched. Now listen, for the record, I actually quite like this movie. A lot, actually. I think that the lessons that it tries to teach, and the lessons that it's trying to expose to the next generation, to younger people, are some of the best lessons that you could try and express at such an early age. Like teaching about honesty, staying true to yourself, avoiding temptation, all of that. They show this in really effective ways. Dare I say, too effective. I mean, the ways they show this are so effective that they kind of traumatized me as a 21-year-old. So I think that there could have been a better way for them to portray these messages without going completely nuts with the story and the events of the movie. But I kind of give it kudos for doing that, for having the guts to show these things. Again, when I have kids, this certainly won't be the first movie that they're gonna sit down and watch. And I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure it won't be the second or third either. But when they're old enough, I think this movie would be very valuable to show them. So yeah, I really like this movie, not only for its messaging, but for what it had the bravery to show as a family film on the big screen. And keep in mind, the craziest part about all this is that this is Disney's second feature film, his second one. And what an improvement it is over Snow White already. Like I mentioned in my Snow White review, that the animation looked pretty good, but there were some rough edges here and there. In Pinocchio, the animation looks perfect. They hit their stride visually with their entire second movie. All of the different environments, all the character designs, the underwater part, even if it is a bit of a slog, I mean, it looks great. And then the music, the score of this film. Like, with just my last video, I emphasized that there weren't going to be many movies that are able to dethrone Snow White musically. Well, guess what? We're already here. Every single song that comes on is iconic to the nth degree. I mean, just look at this list. This film holds a song so iconic that to this day, it is the melody you listen to during the opening of every single Disney movie. When You Wish Upon a Star. When it comes to Disney, it doesn't get much more iconic than that. But yeah, this movie, it really surprised me and traumatized me, but in a good way. Mike, how the heck you traumatized in a good way? I don't know. I mean, more so, every sort of unsettling or frightening scene in this movie has a purpose and supports the message that they're trying to say. Because, I mean, listen, there are plenty of movies that are scary for scary's sake, you know? I mean, look at all the horror movies that come out nowadays. They're schlocky, they don't have a message. You just go so you could feel scared, and then you leave and you have nightmares and whatever. I've never been a big fan of horror anyways. But this is different, you know? This is special. And I appreciate this movie a whole lot for that. Like, I was just looking at this poster, getting ready to drop it into my tier list, and I was looking around, and like half these characters like are scary. Like, obviously you have Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket and Figaro here at the forefront, but it's like, well, like this guy over here, like, he's a freak. You have this guy like screaming in the background. I mean, he threw Pinocchio in a cage and he was just kind of like running around like screaming in Italian. Like, I was horrified. This guy was a jerk. This guy was kind of creepy too. And like, look at the whale lurking in the background. Like, this is a like I don't know how to feel about this. So, where does Pinocchio rank? I gotta be honest, guys, I think we have a new winner. Overall, I think it's better than Snow White. But, is it A or S? That's a real question. I think I'm fine with putting it at the top of A. Like, I really liked it. It's a special film. Like, we'll get there soon enough, but none of the movies so far, I think, quite have that pizzazz and that intense emotional weight and storytelling to be S tier. And I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna be too strict, but I'm still gonna try and be somewhat picky with what I decide to go in S tier, because we have a lot of movies to go through. By the end of this whole thing, or at least when I'm caught up to the modern day, I don't want S tier to be flooded. I still want it to be a very exclusive group of movies. So, but yeah, putting it ahead of Snow White, best movie we've seen so far, at the top of A, I think that's a pretty good landing spot for it. The next movie we're going to be watching is Fantasia, released at the end of that year, November 13th, 1940. I have seen this before. A few years back, I actually did try my best to watch Walt Disney Animation Studios' entire catalog, but I did get to most of them, not all of them, but this is one of the ones I wound up getting to. I don't want to spoil my thoughts yet. Obviously, I'm going to rewatch it, but I do remember having some strong opinions about it. But we'll have to wait for next week, so yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then. Take care.